Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Nicole McIntyre, and I am the Manager of Transfer Success Initiatives for the UC Berkeley College of Engineering. We're really excited that you're joining us today for the second event in our Community College webinar series. Before we get started, I just want to share that we have live captioning, which you can access by clicking the CC button on the bottom of your Zoom screen. And the event will be recorded. You can access the recording of the talk in a few days at engineering.berkeley.edu/cc. And you can also go to that site to register for future webinars. I want to also introduce Dr. Sonia Travaglini, who is our Learning and Success Specialist in the college. We're really excited that she's here to join us. And Dr. Sonia will be helping answer questions in the chat. Before we get started with today's presentation, I want to encourage you to register and to maybe attend some of our upcoming webinars. On Friday, we have an info session on the Industrial Engineering and Operations Research major, which if you don't know what an Industrial Engineering and Operations Research major does, it's a really great opportunity to go and learn a little bit more from the department. And then this time next Tuesday, we will have a live panel of current transfer students speaking about their experiences transferring to Berkeley Engineering. Next Thursday, we will be talking about the Transfer to Excellence program, which is a paid research internship, and other ways to get involved in research while you're enrolled at your community college. And I think today's speaker will really highlight why this is an exciting opportunity. And then finally, last week we had some students asking questions about majors outside of the College of Engineering. So I just want to highlight that the College of Environmental Design is also hosting remote sessions for community college students this fall. They offer really cool majors like architecture, urban studies, and sustainable environmental design. So you could check out some of their sessions, and I'll put the link to register in the chat. So without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Matthew Sherburne. Dr. Sherburne received his AS degree from American River College in Sacramento. So a special welcome to any ARC, Consumers, Sac City students out there. Also proud to be from Sacramento. Matthew then transferred to UC Berkeley, where he completed his bachelor's degrees in both mechanical engineering and material science and mineral engineering, and then earned his master's of science and his Ph.D. in material science and engineering, also at UC Berkeley. Dr. Sherburne is now a lecturer on campus and the director of international partnerships for the College of Engineering, and a strong advocate for transfer students, which we're grateful for. And his research focuses on applying computational techniques to the discovery, design, and development of materials for a sustainable world. So without any further ado, I will hand it over to you to share some advice and wisdom.
All right, thanks, Nicole. That's okay, I'm not muted. So yeah, welcome. Thank you for being here. I hope there are some folks from American River College on the call. So where to start? Okay, so I had a career. I was working in Sacramento and I was not an engineer. And I went to American River College because I needed a degree to advance in my career. And American River College was the closest to my house. And it turned out to be the best, there we go, ARC. Or as we called it, we always called it USC, University of Southern Carmichael. And going to AR was quite literally one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life. It turned out that they had the ASME, American Society of Mechanical Engineers. They had a club on campus. And I used to race bicycles, so I would ride my bike to campus, and it turned out that the president of ASME in his car would race me to campus. And I would always win on my bike. And so they tracked me down at the bike shop and asked me if I would like to be involved in a project. And I said, well, what's the project? And it turned out ASME sponsors a human-powered vehicle where each university builds a bicycle and competes against other universities. And so I got involved in this project where we built a semi-recumbent bike and you build a fairing around it. And I was going to school for a business major, right? Because that was going to be the easiest path for me to move forward. And not being shy, I showed up and they were building the bike and they showed me what they were doing. And I would just go, oh, you shouldn't do that because of, you know, weight or whatever I knew about bike racing. And they actually took my input seriously. And so that first year I participated, helped design, helped build the bike, and race it. And so it was so much fun. I came back the next year and started being more involved. And even though I was a business major, the club voted me vice president of ASME. So the president, Terry, who's still a good friend of mine, was like, what? A business major is vice president of mechanical engineering club? And so I got more and more involved in that, started thinking about the mathematics behind the design, the physics behind the design. And one of my good friends from American River College, Dola, said, look, you really enjoy this stuff. Why don't you change to engineering? I thought about it and I was really enjoying it. So I changed to engineering. And with that change, I had to go and start taking the calculus and physics. And so it took me a year longer to get out of American River College. I shortened that a little because I took my chemistries in the summer at Sacramento City College. So if there's anybody here from Sac City. So then I applied to transfer. So I applied only to 3 places: Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, Penn State, and Berkeley. And at that point, I was applying for very special programs, essentially dual programs. And the reason I was doing this was when I started designing the bicycle and working on the human-powered vehicle project, I thought I was going to be a mechanical engineer, right? I thought I was going to be a design engineer. So then I took Engineering 45, right? Introduction to Material Science. Most community colleges have this. We had it. We just renamed it to MSE 45. But it's the typical Introduction to Materials class. And I took this from Minerva Moreno, so I don't know if she's still teaching at ARC. And I started learning about properties of materials. And so at that point, I was thinking, okay, I like the design aspect. It seems that materials go well with the design aspect. And so I said, okay, I only want to transfer to places where I can combine in a real way materials and mechanical engineering. And it turned out Penn State, where I had started growing up, literally on the campus when my dad was in the geophysics department there, had such a program, and we still had many family friends in State College. Cal Poly San Luis Obispo had a double major program, and Berkeley had a joint major program that I could transfer into at the time. So I applied to those 3 universities and got accepted at all 3. Turned out in the end, I was just like, Penn State's too far away. I got accepted to 2 good schools in California. I thought I was going to go to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo because it turned out, at least at the time, American River College was a big feeder to Cal Poly. And that was very appealing to me because, one, the former president of ASME, Carlton, who was racing me in his car, had become one of my best friends. He had gone there, multiple other people. We probably, to engineering at the time, American River College probably sent 12 to 20 people a year. And so if I went to San Luis Obispo, I had a network of people already at San Luis Obispo that I knew. And many of them I worked on the Human Powered Vehicle project with. And so I went and visited on my own, thought it was a great place, drove back to Sacramento. Life continues. There's the official visit day. I go down to San Luis Obispo and meet with the mechanical engineering faculty chair, and essentially was told, don't do the double major. Don't do the double major. I was like, well, that's depressing. So I went and talked to the chair of material science and was told, don't do the double major, don't do the double major, don't do the double major. So I was thoroughly confused. They offered a degree, and yet everybody was telling me not to do it. We stayed the rest of the weekend with my friends. I drove back up to Sacramento. And at this time, this actually dates me now. At this time, I got back home and there was the 8.5 by 11 envelope. So emails were just coming around and nobody was using emails to tell you you were accepted or rejected. So I got the big envelope from Berkeley, which meant I was accepted because they wouldn't pay the postage if they were rejecting you for the big envelope. And I came down to Berkeley for the official visit. And I met with the chair of the material science department at the time. That was Ron Gronsky. And he was like, oh my God, the program with mechanical and engineering and material science is a great program. You're going to have to take a couple extra technicals. You're going to have to work hard, but the 2 degrees fit together so well for what you're interested in and what you want to do. I was like, oh, okay, this is very different than San Luis Obispo. It was very welcoming. It was very, yes, we want you to do what you want to do, and we're here to help you. Then I met with Professor George Johnson, who was the undergraduate advisor in mechanical engineering. And George was like, oh my God, it's a great program. Absolutely. You know, you should do it. Just know that you're going to have to work a little harder. You're going to have to take a few more classes, but yes. So spent, the full day at Berkeley and drove home, thought about it. And it was like, okay, really these were not similar experiences. Everybody at Berkeley was very welcoming, very, wanted me to do what I wanted to do and what I was interested in. And that wasn't the experience elsewhere. So I ended up transferring to Berkeley. Now, okay, so I'll answer the question about GPA in just a second. So the Human Powered Vehicle was really responsible for my American River College, and the Human Powered Vehicle was responsible for my transition into engineering. E45 was really responsible for my interest in material science. And so the human-powered vehicle competition you go to, there was Berkeley, Davis, Texas A&M, University of Florida, right? All of these big major institutions, and we were the only community college team there. We had raised money to pay for the building of the bike. So I think we had ended up raising, it wasn't a huge amount. It was maybe about $5,000. Intel donated. They were the major, company at the time in the area. I used contacts to give us free bike stuff. And then the bike we literally went to Midas muffler shop and had them bend a piece of muffler pipe. And that's what we built the bike out of. So it was actually very cheap to do. But you have to, at the event, you have to present. You have to stand up in front of a panel of professional engineers and present your project, what you did, how you did it. And generally, all the faculty advisors and everybody from all of the other schools, or at least most of them, are there watching you. And so we presented and we showed that we had a prototype bike that we built, and we tested a bunch of ideas on. We threw out some ideas. This was our final project. And we presented that. And so the faculty advisors from all these other schools got to see me present, got to see us present, got to see what we did. And so it was really interesting because when I went and visited San Luis Obispo, they had a human-powered vehicle team. They actually reached out and talked to me and if I went to San Luis Obispo, they wanted me on their team. When I came to Berkeley, the people from the human-powered vehicle team at Berkeley reached out and wanted to talk to me, wanted to know if I wanted to be involved in the human-powered vehicle project here. So one of the things is, so AR changed my life, but getting involved in a project that had such visibility, it really helped me because I went in, and when I met with George Johnson in the mechanical engineering department at Berkeley, who was involved in the human-powered vehicle project at Berkeley, he talked to me about the human-powered vehicle and what I did, what I was doing. And so it was a nice way to have a conversation with people. And I'll come back to this because when you transfer, there's lots of things to consider about what you do with your time at the institution you transfer to. So I ended up transferring to Berkeley, you transfer in, I'm taking the upper division mechanical engineering and the upper division material science. As I'm taking these classes, it turned out I realized that I was a material scientist who had an interest in mechanical engineering and design. So all of my electives, all the stuff I looked at, all the things I did really were towards the material science side of things. And so one of the things I will say is, as you go along and as you transfer, you might have an idea of what you are going to do. Be open to that changing, okay? I went from a completely non-scientific, non-engineering field to thinking I was a mechanical engineering, who had an interest in material science, to, oh, look, I'm a material scientist who likes the mechanics of things. So be open to that change and be open to experiences that allow you to explore your interests. Because engineering is an incredibly broad field of study. And even if you look at individual disciplines, whether it's electrical, civil, materials, mechanical, they're all very broad in and of themselves. And so if you get a chance to participate in a project and it sounds interesting to you, you know, do it. And what's the worst thing that happens? You learn something, you learn whether you're interested in it. If it's not interesting to you, then that's a whole area of whatever discipline you're studying that you know you don't want to go into, and you can move on to the next area. So I got to Berkeley, and having worked on the human-powered vehicle competition, I had worked with composite materials. So we had made our own fairing out of carbon fiber and vacuum bagged and, you know, let the epoxy set. And so when I first got to Berkeley, I went to work for a professor in mechanical engineering who worked on composite materials. Turns out that really wasn't what I was interested in. So I worked for him for a short time, went and talked to him and said, you know, this isn't what I want to spend the rest of my life doing, it turns out. I think it's, you know, for me, it would be a nice hobby, but it's not where my passion lies. And so we just figured out what I could do to get the project in a place where we could pass it off to another undergrad that might want to do research. And so then I ended up, I had a class with Professor Sean in material science, phase transformations and kinetics. And I thought it was really an interesting class. And so I just went to him during an office hour and said, okay, well, there's nobody else here. Can I talk to you about something other than MSE 103? And he was like, absolutely. I was like, all right, what about research? I had looked at his webpage and, you know, I thought it was really interesting. And he did and does computational material science. So using computers to design, discover new materials. And so I started doing that as an undergrad and really fell in love with this idea of using computers to design new materials, discover new materials. And so then I applied for PhD programs. I ended up staying at Berkeley, ended up working for Professor Sean, had several other offers. For a multitude of reasons, it was the best fit to stay here. And so I finished my PhD in material science at Berkeley. When I was finishing my PhD, along with being involved in research, my personal research projects, I got involved in departmental efforts to start a larger research center. Unfortunately, I'll come back to this shortly, that's why it was delayed a couple years in starting. And this was where the economy had tanked and the university didn't have money to keep me. A friend of mine who had finished his PhD, I think 2 years before me, a year or 2 years before me, had taken a faculty position at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. I had thought the research center would come through, I'd be able to stay at Berkeley. The research center was delayed, the economy tanked, so the department had no money to keep me. And I got a phone call from the chair of the search committee at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and talked to me and said, look, why don't you put in your application? I put in my application, I got on the short list, so I went out to visit UIUC, gave the talks, met students, met faculty, and got a job offer. And so I went to University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and I was teaching in the material science department and doing research. And my graduate research and what I was doing at UIUC largely focused on mechanical properties and metals. But I had taken all of these other classes and learned a lot and learned as much as I could out of those classes. So I was at UIUC. The research center I was trying to start at Berkeley was a sustainable energy research center with many faculty. I was actually, my name is on the original proposal. I'm the only grad student listed. And it was a joint center with Singapore. And so while I was gone and at UIUC, the center came through. The person that was going to run it after I left, he ended up leaving Berkeley. And so Berkeley reached out to me and essentially brought me back to Berkeley to be the program director for this Sustainable Energy Research Center. And so it ended in December 2019. And so for 5 years, I was going and spending 6 to 8 months a year in Singapore, and I would come back to Berkeley and teach in the material science department in the fall for my duties to the home department. And so I was doing metals research. I was doing failure research. In the new research center, I took the computational tools that I knew, I just started applying them to solar materials, discovery of new solar materials, right? It turns out that my computational tools applied. I had to refresh myself on how solar cells behave, but I had taken solid state physics. I had taken quantum mechanics. I understood the fundamentals. So I just had to brush up, and then I could transfer from one field to another and start developing skills there. And that led me to working in electrocatalytic reduction of CO2 to value added. So the idea is to take CO2 from chemical plants, right, or refineries, and run it through a reactor and turn the CO2 into propene or ethylene or some other value added product, so it's not released to the environment, thus closing the fuel cycle. And that has led me into the electrochemical cleaning of water, right? Desalination and cleaning of water so people can have water that's drinkable and usable. And so a lot of the work I do in water is based on molecular dynamics. And so bringing this back, I know he's no longer there now, but at American River College, I took, I think it was Physics 7A from John Hanks, who has since left American River College, right? But this is F equals ma. This is Newtonian mechanics. And a chunk of, and something one of my postdocs works on daily, and I have undergraduate students working on it daily, is Newtonian mechanics, is F equals ma. And so daily, right, I have people applying the basic physics you learn in your first semester calculus-based physics class to research. And so the things that you learn in the classes that you take right now can come back years later and come back again and again and again. Things you take in other classes can come back and you can completely change fields like I did, as long as you have this understanding from your other classes. So the program with Singapore ended. I have a research program in the Philippines, so I go to the Philippines. And because of this international exposure and international ties that I've developed, the new dean has appointed me director of international partnerships for the College of Engineering. And so last night I was just on a call with the Minister of Research for Indonesia, talking about opening a research center between Berkeley and Indonesia. So I'm just one example. So Carlton, who was the president of ASME, has gone on and is, he actually got his degree in civil engineering, and he has gone on to do incredible stuff in structures and design and that area. Terry, who was the president while I was the vice president of ASME at American River College, has started his own water company, has multiple patents, right? And he actually has hired 3 of the people from American River College that we were all there at the same time to do design work and, help run his company. Ryan, who came to Berkeley with me but was in civil engineer, is now, fairly big in the government, EPA, right, Environmental Protection Agency. He came to Berkeley and really got in on kind of this ground floor of environmental efforts in civil and environmental engineering. So I think the community college and the network of people I, met there and still have to this day, fundamentally changed my life, fundamentally prepared me for every challenge I have faced since. And there's, maybe not a day is a little too, but there's not a week where I don't think something about my time at American River College and how being engaged with the different projects and different things I was doing there helped shape my career now. Whether it's research, right, the first proposals I ever wrote were at American River College, essentially begging for money for the human powered vehicle competition. Please, Intel, give us $1,000. And so it was an incredible learning experience and time at American River for me. And so I think coming from the junior college, you will be ready, whatever junior college you went to or are at now, you'll be ready to transfer to Berkeley. Now, the thing I will say is, when I was at American River College, my GPA wasn't 4.0, but it was some years ago. It was probably around 3.9. Somewhere between 3.85 and 3.95. Most of the classes I got A's in. I had a few B's scattered around. It wasn't that American River College was easy. I worked hard. I will say that when I transferred to a 4-year institution such as Berkeley, it got substantially harder. It was a step up. And I will tell you that all my friends at San Luis Obispo essentially experienced the same thing. They got there, and what was expected of you was more intense than what they had experienced at American River College. And so I got to Berkeley, and I got my first semester at Berkeley, I got my first C. And I thought it was over. That's it. My career is done. Everybody was encouraging here. The students, I got in great student groups. And I just found it took me about half a semester to ramp up to how I had to study, how I had to learn at Berkeley. And again, right, my friends at San Luis Obispo seemed to say it was about a quarter to figure out, oh, right, I'm not going out this Friday night. I've got to study. And so after the first semester, I settled in. So the nice thing now at Berkeley, we realize, and we fought for this, the college has realized that you have this ramp up time. And when I transferred in, you were only given 4 semesters to graduate. And I ended up petitioning, and actually George Johnson signed off on it, and I got a 5th semester. Well, now you transfer in, you naturally have 5 semesters to graduate from Berkeley as a transfer student. And I think that's actually really good, because that first semester is a bit, I've only met one undergrad or one transfer student at Berkeley in the College of Engineering who claims he didn't have any problem transferring and the course weren't any more difficult. I don't know how much I believe that. Every other transfer student I meet says, oh yeah, the first semester was an adjustment period. So you should be aware of that. You should be ready for that. The other thing is, as a transfer student, you have to be a little more aware of planning your time. And I don't mean planning your time when you're going to study, when you're going to eat, that type of thing. You only have, say, 2 years or 2.5 years, right? Depending on whether it's quarter or semesters, wherever you transfer to. So 5 semesters at Berkeley. So if you come in and you're typically in the fall, right? That first fall, you're going to be fully focused on your coursework and make sure that you transition well. Well, that really means that you kind of have one summer before you graduate, right? Maybe 2, depending on how you're going to work this out. And so if you want to do an internship, right? Essentially, you let's say you transfer to Berkeley, and if you want to do an industrial internship to see if you were interested in aerospace or Intel or Apple or what have you, right? That means essentially you land on campus, and what I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago that we hosted the career and internship fair, right? So you get to campus, and in September, you have to start going to these events to get an internship. And so that's what I mean by being aware of your time. Your time at the 4-year institution has gone from this to this. And so you have to plan for that. And so I got to Berkeley towards the end of my first semester. I got the first research position. At the end of my first semester, I realized that wasn't for me. And so I rushed around and figured out what I was interested in. I went and talked, or what else I might be interested in, went and talked to Professor Sean, got a position in his lab, and so I was set for that first summer. Right, and so you're on kind of a compressed clock when you get to a 4-year institution. And so you need to be aware of that. And if you're thinking about graduate school, you need 3 letters of recommendation. Where are those letters coming from? If you're thinking about PhD, like I ended up doing, right, you need a research experience. I'm on the graduate admissions committee for material science. And if you don't have a research experience, the odds that I would admit you to my program are pretty small. And so, you know, it's not that you have to go nuts and have to have every single thing planned out, but you just need to be aware that your window at the 4-year institution is smaller. And so you need to think about, what do I want to do, and be a little more strategic, right? We get freshmen that come in and say, hey, can I work in your lab? And you're like, sure, come on in. And they're like, yeah, I really don't like it. And they'll leave and they'll drift around. But they have 4 years, well, effectively 3 years, to figure things out, right? And so 3.5, I guess, because you apply for grad school in the fall of your senior year, right? So they have time. They have time to do multiple internships. They have time to work in 3 or 4 different labs. They have time to, just take a summer off. And depending on what you want to do, maybe taking a summer off is fine, but getting an internship, getting research, getting involved in these other things, I think is one of the reasons you go to a place like Berkeley. Or even a place like Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, who has a research program, and actually they have lots and lots of student project-based activities. And so you want to be involved in things. You also want to get to know your classmates and spend time with them outside of just studying, right? And so just being aware of that, that's one of the nice things about being at Berkeley. Kind of everybody's midterms are in the same 2 weeks, and everybody's on the same cycle as you. And so everybody tends to have free time, and you go see movies and do things together at a place like Berkeley or San Luis Obispo or some other place where all of the students are in that town and it's not a commuter school. So I think, suck up as much as you can from every class you can, because you don't know where you're going to end up. Because I certainly never thought I would be doing catalytic work. And, when you transfer, really be ready for an uptick that first semester, and how hard it might be for you. Or you might be like the one person I've talked to that said, oh yeah, transferred to Berkeley, no change. It was all easy. And, figure out what you're interested in. And if you're interested in something and there's a professor that does it, go knock on the door, right? Don't expect us to come seek you out. We're just too busy. Come knock on the door. And we all love having students in our group, on our projects, right, working with us. So, yeah, the best way is to get something is go ask. And odds are, if that professor can't handle you in the lab right then and there, because there's a loose rule that I will only have, if I have 5 grad students and 5 postdocs, or 5 grad students and postdocs, that means I can kind of have 5 undergrads. So I can team the undergrad up one-on-one with a grad student or postdoc. So I might not have space in the lab, but I might know of another faculty member in the general area that does have space in their lab. So talk to people and plan. And with that, I guess I've probably rambled more than enough, more than you've wanted to hear. And so I guess we'll take some questions. We'll look at the questions. So I think I answered the one that, what was your GPA? 3.8 plus. We admit students with lower than 3.8. So I'm not on the transfer team for the material science department. I should be, and I need to make the argument that I should be, but I'm just too busy, and I have to figure out what I'm going to give up to be on that team. But I know we've admitted people, with 3.5s and whatnot. Right. So the budget for the bike was probably, well, probably about $5,000 overall, including rental of a U-Haul and everything. We got Southwest to donate a bunch of standby tickets. So one year was in Las Vegas. And so Southwest gave us a bunch of standby tickets. So the team, and we had about 20 people, the team could fly while Terry and I drove the bike and all our gear across the desert. To apply or think to apply to UC Berkeley, I would have to apply at the fall. Sonia, you might be better. So when are they gonna, I think, I'm not sure when the deadline is, but generally applications, so students that started this fall applied last fall. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Thank you so much, Matthew. And great question. Well, the obvious one is it's never too early to start preparing. And so if you're thinking about transferring, even if it's the year before, it's never too soon to reach out to the admissions, check out their resources there, and begin just drafting what you're going to need. The deadline for applications for this year, let me double check for you. And I will post into the Q&A. Let me triple check here. I believe it is, the application will be available August 1st. Sorry, I'm just double checking as I want to make sure I give everyone the right information.
Yeah, no, that's earlier than I thought.
Applications begin on August 1st. From then you can check out exactly what you can write. And the application deadline is actually November 30th. So November 30th will be the cutoff point there. And they are very stiff about it. It has to be before that. And then you get notified around April.
Okay, there we go. So there's a question, do they kick you out after 5 semesters? The answer is sort of, right? What they do is you are moved into, and so I will say one of the things and the college has done is we have engineering student services, and we have created a college-wide essentially advising for our undergrads. So if you transfer in, you'll get an advisor, and they will help you with all the coursework and make sure that all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and you're in good shape. Then you will also get a material science. If you were in material science, you'd get a material science advisor or somebody to help in one of the other departments. And so one, we try and make sure that you're going to graduate in the 5-semester window. Now, it may be that due to circumstances beyond your control, or even if they are in your control, you don't finish in that 5 semesters. What happens is you're kind of moved out of the I'm a student in Berkeley to I'm an extension student. So you will get the classes you need, and you will be able to graduate in 6 semesters, say. We will all work with you to make sure that happens. But logistically, there's paperwork that needs to be filled out, and we get lots of pressure from the state of California. And in fact, a couple years ago, the former governor, Governor Brown, was insisting that we could graduate every student in 3 years. So I had to write up 3-year curriculum and argue that these were very bad ideas. So a lot of this is the state puts a lot of pressure on us to graduate people. And so these limits are set. You will still be able to graduate. You would still graduate with a Berkeley degree in material science, mechanical engineering, civil and environmental engineering, whatever your interests were. We're just going to have to file paperwork, and you'll register for your classes through a separate system. Okay, I know it's a pain, but that is the way the government has set the system up. But no, if you don't graduate in 5 semesters, we don't pack your bags and throw them out on the curb and say, hey, bye, take care. We figured out a way that we can still make sure you get your degree, assuming that you're in good standing. Let's see, Berkeley offer programs for all careers. Right, it depends on what you mean by, right, so there's a huge number of degrees out there, right? And one of the things I do is I go once a year and I go review somebody else's College of Engineering and or material science department. And I can tell you, I've reviewed Cornell, and they have degrees that I never even thought of. You know, I forget the exact nature of the degree. It was something fancier than this, but essentially it was a very specific type of agricultural engineering where the science involved was pretty intense. That being said, most of the things that are out there, right? Mechanical engineering, and mechanical engineering has an aerospace emphasis. So if you wanted aerospace, right, there is still that possibility of getting an emphasis in it, right? Civil and environmental engineering, material science. So all of the typicals, and some years ago, right, bioengineering started evolving. And so we now, as that evolved, Berkeley created a bioengineering department. And so as the world evolves, as the fields evolve, Berkeley will add programs that are suitable for this and new departments. And so we have bioengineering. The other thing, we have engineering sciences, which has energy engineering, engineering and physics. And so it's a program, not a department, but it kind of has 4 or 5 niche areas that if you're interested, it's available to you. So we do a pretty good job, but I don't think any place can have a specific degree for all things engineering. For application and as reference, can my supervisor at my work be a recommend? Oh, right. So can you get a recommendation? I don't know it. Sonia, do they take recommend? So I can tell you, when I applied from American River College, Kristen Casali, yeah, I think it's Casali. She teaches chemistry at American River College, and I TA'd Chem 1A for her. And she had done her graduate work at Berkeley and was telling me all about the best places to get a hot dog and whatnot if I transferred here. She wrote a letter of recommendation for me and submitted it to the college. So I know that they used to take them. I don't know if they still do, but you can certainly look, you know, it's worth asking. And if Sonia knows, feel free to chime in.
Absolutely. It's always best to check it directly with the admissions office, as it does change a little bit. But the idea with letters of recommendation is to have people speak to the things you do best at and that you can bring to Berkeley. So I personally used, when applying to my PhD program in mechanical engineering, a professor from England from quite a while ago. So I would say anyone who can speak to your strengths is a great choice, and then double check with the admissions office.
Yeah, so Kristen wrote about me being a TA for Chem 1A, and, I never read the letters, but it didn't get me not accepted. So it must have said I was good at, teaching and these types of things and engaged in learning things that Berkeley cares about. To apply or think to apply to UC Berkeley, I would have to, I did that one. Do you ever apply for, right. So did I ever apply for an internship? No. Turns out once I started doing research, even on the composites that turned out I wasn't really what I wanted to do, I really enjoyed the research. And so I went the research track. So I had a friend of mine, my housemate, Steve, when we were undergrads together here at Berkeley. He essentially got an internship at IBM. And then every year they brought him back to IBM. He finished up his bachelor's degree and essentially packed up out of the apartment and went down to IBM and started working with the group that he had been interning with. And so his internship turned in directly to a career. He's still with IBM. Actually, his wife, Michelle, is with IBM, and they now live in Texas and still, working with and for IBM. I don't know, it's 5. Do we have to cut off, or I can keep running?
You can keep running if you'd like to.
Yeah, there are still questions here, so I'll go ahead and keep answering the questions.
And I'm just going to break in 1 second to say, as ever, you should check with admissions because there is an update on the letters of recommendations. I would check the transfer requirements, which I'm dropping into the chat now for all attendees so that you can get an exact science there, because I might not have been 100% correct.
Great, thank you. Esteban, will UC Berkeley have Zoom classes or Microsoft Team classes, or will they be able to? Okay, so how bad is COVID, and are we all screwed for all eternity and never to meet in person ever again? Is essentially the question. So this semester, I actually appreciated that the campus said, moderately early said, look, it's going to be remote. We're going to be remote for the whole fall semester. I think that took a lot of the stress off of us, those of us that teach the classes, and I think it took a lot of stress off of the students that take the classes, right? If you look at places like North Carolina or Notre Dame, or, right, every morning I've got an email about schools and how they're handling COVID, right? Where they moved the students in, there was an outbreak, they stop in-person classes, they go online, right? Some universities have gone online and then told everybody to move off of campus, get out of here, go back home. There are universities that had people come in, then had a COVID outbreak, then sent everybody home, and then invited everybody to move back and say, we're going to go in person again. Right? I think that's just a disaster for loads and loads of stress by all people involved. And so I think Berkeley made the right decision this semester, saying we are going to be remote the whole semester. Now, what we've done and what the decision is for the spring semester is the first 2 weeks will be remote. And the hope is that we can move the students in, do testing, right, do tracking, and essentially the first 2 weeks we will be remote. The students will be in their dorms or wherever they're supposed to be, essentially quarantining. And if we can do that and not have a significant outbreak, the idea is that in the spring, after these 2 weeks, we'll be able to roll into in-person teaching. and then the rest of the semester will be in-person teaching, or it will be in person until the spring break. And then when everybody disperses all throughout the country and internationally, assuming that we're allowed to travel again, the administration will make a judgment call on how to handle that. So if come spring break, COVID's not a real problem, we have a vaccine, then everybody can come back to campus and we'll keep teaching in person. If we don't have a vaccine and COVID's an issue, what I think we will do is say, okay, fine, you're going to go on spring break, you're going to go visit family, you're going to go all over the place. After spring break, we will go with remote teaching. So that's kind of the plan for spring. And the hope is that for the fall 2021, with a vaccine in place, we've done lots and lots of work on making campus safe, from hand sanitizers everywhere to buying equipment to, clean classrooms effectively and efficiently. The idea is next fall, we will be back to business as usual, and it will be in person. Okay. Let's see. I did that. All right. Another American River student. Best educated students in here. Let's see, bike. So what about recycling plastics? So yes, there are people working on this. I raised the money and I started a makerspace, and it's actually located in the library here on campus. So the idea was all of the students have access to 3D printers and a bunch of other things. And one of the things we started studying, and a student from the materials department and one from the mechanical, and everybody started looking into, with the plastic 3D printers, you get lots of bad prints, excess filament, right? And so we looked at how we could take the filament and chop it and grind it and reform new filament, and how that would work. So that's just a small thing I happen to have been involved in. There are people that are working on plastics that are dissolvable, with the idea being that, right, one of the issues is plastics in the ocean. Well, if all of our plastics are kind of set to dissolve away in a non-environmentally toxic manner, right, you could imagine that being a good thing, right? A bottle floating in the ocean just slowly dissolves away and doesn't hurt any of the marine life. So yeah, there's lots of work on, so as far as like traditional recycling, you see the cans on the side of the street and people throw their plastic bottles in that, and that recycling, not so much. But more advanced thoughts on recycling, or right, how the plastics cannot be an impact to the environment. Certainly that's done here, and there's lots of people that do these types of things. How many B's would you say you had? Oh God, now you're asking me to think back. So I started out a business major, so I had lots of accounting, economics. I did fine in that. I will say one of the toughest classes to this day I ever had was my business law class. Let's see. So I think I got a B in one of my math classes, a B plus. It might have been the pre-calc class. I don't know why, I just hated that class. Linear algebra, differential equations, those were A's. First, yeah, so I think I got A's. I may have gotten a B plus, A minus in second semester calculus. Physics, those were A's. Chemistry, so I got an A- in the chemistry class I took at Sac City for the summer. The problem was I was working 40 hours and it was a long commute to Sac City. So yeah, 2 or 3 out of all of the classes I took at junior college, I think. There might have been a 4th one in there somewhere, but I think that's probably about what I had coming out of the junior college. I had mostly A's and I would guess 2 to 4 B's of some type. And that was, I will remember, I had far more classes than a typical transfer student. Turns out business classes were easy. I could take 18 units and get all A's. Okay, so were you still able to take breaks in between studying? Oh yeah, so my father had his PhD, and when I decided to transfer to Berkeley, he told me, he goes, you know, it's a research institution, students aren't gonna wanna help you, it's gonna be cutthroat. Turns out, you know, absolutely some of my best friends are from my undergrad years at Berkeley. I got here as long as I was willing to work and carry my weight. Everybody was willing to help me. And like, I got into this group, and Natalie, who's still one of the smartest people I've ever been around in my life, knew I was a junior college transfer, and like I'd be lost at some point because one of my classes didn't cover something that a Berkeley class did. And she'd be like, oh, you haven't seen this before. Let me give you a quick 5-minute tutorial. Then it was like, oh, I got it. Okay. And then and everybody was so helpful here. There was no cutthroatness. Now, if you transfer into the pre-med program, then that's a different story. Turns out pre-meds are a different breed. But in the College of Engineering, I did not, and I do not now see there being a problem and getting into study groups. And you get in the study group, and the wonderful thing is once you're in the study group, you know, I can remember us just going, all right, I'm hungry, I don't want to eat anything. Oh, let's drive to Ranch 99 Market and buy stuff, and then we'll all go to my place and cook and hang out. And so next thing you know, I had like 6 people in my apartment, and we're cooking dinner and just laughing and joking, right? So we took breaks, and that's actually what leads to all of these folks being lifelong friends of mine, right? We were in the labs at 2 or 3 in the morning trying to finish projects. So we got to know each other very well. And somewhere I've got a classic picture of a garbage can where above the garbage can, it says no food or drink. And if you look, everything that's filling and overflowing out of the garbage can is all food and drink wrappers. And so, yeah, you can take breaks. Your breaks will tend to be with the folks that you're with. It's not 24/7. We took, a bunch of us ended up driving down to LA together on a long weekend to go to Disneyland. So yeah, you can take breaks and you can do stuff. Does Berkeley offer jobs for students? Yeah, so there are campus jobs. I know students that work in the library. There's a whole system in Berkeley that is set up to help you with these things. If you happen to have student aid that's specifically tied to work, sometimes that can be used for research. Sometimes it's just used. So I had some money like that when I was an undergrad, and I ended up working in the physics department. And my job was essentially to set up and take down all of the physics labs. So like if you're taking, I think it was 7A, 7B, 7C at American River College, your 3-semester traditional physics series, I was setting up the labs and tearing down the labs at Berkeley. And I had a small bit of I forget the type of money it's called, but federal grant money that would pay me to do a student job. And the physics department hired me to do that. Internships, if you're looking for one off campus, there's a whole career center that is geared up for that. The other thing is most departments have a decent, if not good, alumni network. So they can get you in contact with somebody. So yeah, that is very, very common. Let's see. There we go. For master's applications, can letters of recommendation come from professors at, oh yeah, right. So I would say for a master's, even for a PhD, you have to have 3 letters at least. I look at this this would be the same advice I'd give anybody, right? 2 of the letters should come from faculty if you come to Berkeley, 2 letters should come from faculty at Berkeley. 1 letter can come from a business, an internship, or from your professor at the junior college. I think getting 3 letters from faculty at Berkeley is better. I say this for the same with industrial letters versus junior college letters, but it is very, very common. And again, I review 200 applications a year and have done for the last 5 years. And it's very common for students that apply to have 2 of the letters from their current institution and 1 letter from somewhere else. So that's completely within the norm.
I'm just going to chime in here. Sorry, Matthew.
Oh, yeah.
Break in and say, due to my error, so sorry about that, everyone.
It's going to cut us off?
Some confusion. Indeed, as transfer students, just specifically transfer applications, do not submit letters of recommendation. Only freshmen do.
Okay, yeah, so to transfer in. Okay, so yeah, so as a transfer student, I guess they no longer take letters of recommendation. So what technical skills that were learned outside the classroom, most engineering students at Berkeley have? So I will tell you the thing that I think is most important that you don't learn so well in the classroom is communication. I spend a huge chunk of time writing, right? And so I am in the middle of writing several grant proposals. One will probably be, I think it's 30 pages long. The other will be 15 pages long. I spend a lot of time writing. I spend a lot of time writing my slides. So for my lectures, for my presentation at conferences. So the more skills you can develop in communication, talking in front of people, presenting in front of people, writing, the much better your skills will be. So we have a PhD student who graduated, went to a moderately successful startup, meaning they're continuing to grow, but they haven't, gone public and made it huge yet. And he is new there. He got a lot of work in how to make a presentation, how to do the slides. And we spend a lot of time on that with the students in our groups. And it's really funny because I happened to be on a call with him and his advisor about something else. And he was talking about how now when something needs to be presented, even though he's new at the company, less than a year, he is the default person that the CEO contacts directly saying, look, we've got to present on this. I need slides that tell this story. Get me 3 or 4 slides that tell this story. So here's somebody that just finished his graduate degree, went to work for a company, and because he is skilled at communication, is now in direct contact with the CEO. Now tell me that's not good for his career, right? And so I think communication skills and anything you can do to improve your communication is hugely important. Okay. Let's see. These keep rolling up on me. Let's see. So everything in assist are requirement, but also transferable and count as credit. So there are, when you're taking classes at the community college, you want to make sure that your classes satisfy the UC requirements, and you're taking classes that will check off boxes, right? Whether it's humanities or social sciences or whatever. And so I transferred and I had an insane amount of units from the junior college, right? And Berkeley will only take some number of those. And that's true for Cal State's UCs, right? They only take some number of those. And so you have to be somewhat planning on this, right? So for summer classes, do we apply online? Well, so last summer, our summer classes were all 100% online. Next summer, we may have in person, but yes, the application, you would apply online through Berkeley Summer, right? If you just look up Berkeley Summer Program, and they're starting to plan on what they're going to do next summer now. Well, they've already started planning. So yeah, so if you're taking summer classes here, the application would be all online. And my guess is that's how most places are now. Yeah, so Berkeley has student government, ASUC, I know, great name, Association of Students, something or other, president, vice presidents, right, the whole thing, senators. And when everybody's on campus in the fall, you'll see all kinds of signs and people chalking the sidewalks with who to vote for and all kinds of activities. So yeah, there's a very active student government. Let's see. To apply or think to apply to UC Berkeley, I would have to apply. Yeah, so I think so you apply in the fall for the next fall. Berkeley in general does not take students in the spring. I will point out I applied for fall admissions. Berkeley accepted me, but said, stay at American River one more semester and come in the spring. It turned out I had not taken linear algebra. I had not taken the introduction to programming class. I hadn't finished Physics 7C, and there was one other class. So there were 4 classes that I could take. And so Berkeley said, yes, we want you, but stay and take at least 3 of those classes and you can come in the spring. So I ended up staying at American River College in the fall semester and then transferred to Berkeley in the spring. But the applications are only, you apply for the fall, and then they may or may not make an exception. I ended up being off cycle, right? Because I started out a business major and then transferred over to engineering. And so my whole transcript was a mess. What's a big tip you have for someone taking pre-calc class right now? Do better than I did. I don't know why. It might have been the instructor. I didn't see the point of the class. So for me, if I was to go back and redo pre-calc, I really would have gone and seen the instructor a lot more and asked them what the reason was that I was learning these things. To me, at least the way it was taught, pre-calc was just a hodgepodge of, oh, here's some things we didn't teach you, and we're just going to throw it in here and teach it to you. And there was never any rationale for why I needed to learn the stuff. So I was pretty unmotivated in the class. So be more motivated than I was and, you know, go talk to the instructor. Okay, I'm about to enroll in differential equations in linear algebra, and yes, calculus is a tough and scary course, and my advice to you as a student is being able to manage yourself. Knowing when your appropriate time for class, family, it's really, I would agree, yeah, mindset, right? So mine for pre-calculus, I didn't get the class, I didn't know why I needed it, and yeah, so that was the only math class I did that in, right? Every other math class I tore into. Yeah, okay. For master's applications, yeah, so I answered that, right? 2 letters of recommendation. It's fine if you get one letter of recommendation from your professor at the 2-year college. What technical skills, right? So communications. Yeah, so I had time to work and do you have time to work and do internships once you settle down, right? And that's what I did. So my work was my research, and I started out for free. And as I developed some skills along the way, my professor ended up paying me. And I think the going rate now is something like $15 or $16 an hour, $14 an hour, something like that. And, you know, I was working about 20 hours a week in the lab doing research, and I was getting paid for that time. Yeah, so I kind of answered this one, but you have 5 semesters to be an official student at Berkeley. After that, you come in through university extension. If you need a 6th semester to graduate, you will still graduate with a Berkeley degree. It's just the bureaucracy gives you a different title for that 6th semester. And again, this is largely driven by things beyond our control. Do you offer programs for different careers? So right, so you can get involved in, you know, any project you want at Berkeley. It doesn't have to be in your area, right? It can be in, look, we've got material science students who do projects in civil engineering, right? And this is one of the things, I teach a class on Monday to our freshman students. And one of the big things I try and get through to them is, don't worry so much about what your specific degree is. You're learning the math, the physics, the chemistry, and then your upper divisions in your area. But what you find is there's lots of overlap in different fields, right? And so you can find a mechanical engineer doing civil. You can find a material scientist doing electrical, right? So you learn the fundamentals, and then you can take those fundamentals that you know and you can apply them wherever you wish. So I don't think you should get hung up in the fact that, you know, I am a mechanical engineer, therefore I must work on. Now, if there's a project in civil engineering or electrical engineering or nuclear engineering, right, you can go work on it, right? You have the fundamental backgrounds to work on these things as an undergrad. And most faculty will take you in. So in my group, I've got material science students. As an undergrad, I've had physics, I've had chemical engineering, I've had chemistry, right? Just that happens to be my area of interest, kind of spans that space. And so I naturally get students that come to me from all of those disciplines wanting to work on a material science project. And so, yeah, I think you can go work, you know, if you find a project that's interesting to you in a different area, right, or something that would be traditionally a different career path, go ask. There's no reason for you not to do that. Okay. Let's see. I really wish to go into an engineering, but not really good at math, calculus. So that's fine. Okay, so I can backtrack. So when I was in high school, so there's a couple things here. So in high school, I was a typical dumb jock. I ended up lettering in multiple sports, and I avoided every difficult class there was. I did the math I had to graduate. I did the science I had to graduate. And this was because, to be honest, they were really difficult for me because I am very dyslexic. And when I was going through school, we were just really starting to understand this and starting to make some accommodations and figuring out how I could handle these things. And so I went to school, ended up not graduating after, you know, I graduated high school, went to college, ended up leaving college. That's a whole nother long story in of itself. And then I got a job and a career, and then I went back to school. And so the fact that math and calculus scare you or you think are naturally hard for you, that's okay. When I started back at American River College, I literally started in algebra, right? I went algebra, trig, right? Pre-calc, calc 1, 2, 3, differential equations, linear algebra, right? So I worked my way all through that. And if I can do that with being incredibly dyslexic, I think you can also. And that's the other thing, and I will forever be grateful to American River College, and I'm guessing most community colleges are this way. The friends I made there and the study groups I made there, they were all willing to help me and help me understand what was going on. And to this day, they are some of my best friends. And so, yeah, the experience, and you know, you can always try the stuff at the community college. And if you decide that you really don't like it, then move on. But don't be predisposed to think, oh, math and science are hard, therefore I'm not going to do it, because I did that in high school. And it turns out to be, it was exactly the wrong thing for me to do. Right? I should have, in high school, you know, maybe not played so many sports and really made an effort to do, you know, AP calculus and do these things. But it was difficult for me, and therefore it was much easier for me to play sports, get a scholarship for sports, and go to school on that than it was to try hard in class. Okay. Do you get your own space to work on projects? So we are cramped for space, but we have, so most departments, so I can tell you about MSE. So we have our student group, MSEA, they have their own office space that they control. If you're doing research, that will be in a professor's office. Most of our undergraduate projects, say like human-powered vehicle or the concrete canoe in civil engineering, they have space, and it's about 15 minutes from campus. It's called the Richmond Field Station, and there are big facilities out there, and the students get space out there to work on the projects. And or some get space on campus depending on what space is available, but generally campus space is pretty tight. We even have trouble getting space for labs for grad students and things. So it's not just undergrads. Everybody has space issues. I'll point out when I was at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, we had space issues out there too. So how old was I when I transferred? That's a good question. I was probably late 20s, maybe early 30s. I'd have to go back and actually do the math. But yeah, so I'm going to say probably 28, 29 when I transferred to Berkeley. So yeah, I was one of the older students in the classes. But there were a few others, and I'll tell you that none of the students that had come straight out of high school to Berkeley, you know, cared. Everybody was like, okay, you're willing to do work. We're willing to work with you. It was the students, and there were students, and I remember one in particular. He came straight from high school to Berkeley, and we ended up moving our study group because he would just come to the study group and want the solutions, right? Where everybody else would come and say there were 5 problems. Everybody else had worked out 3 of them, and everybody had figured out a different 3. So the study group, you could figure out all 5, and everybody could walk each other through the problems and how they solved them. So yeah, I never had a problem, any issue being an older student here. And in fact, for those of you that might be an older student, we actually have a transfer center on campus. And I went and hung out there some when I first got here, and turns out there were other transfer students that were older, and so, you know, hung out and talked with them a little bit. But once I got settled into engineering, I never went back over there because I had engineering friends and nobody cared. Everybody was just here to work hard and learn and have some fun along the way. Okay, so that was a thank you. I'm looking forward to meeting you all soon, face to face. Yeah, if anybody comes to campus, if we're ever allowed, and we will be, but when we're allowed, and you come to campus and, you know, just look me up on the material science website. I'm happy to meet with anyone and talk to you. In the future is, yeah, no, right. I think, you know, you should apply to Berkeley. You know, I will say I'm part of an accreditation committee, and I travel and I see other campuses and other departments. And I am, for the most part, most of my colleagues really care about their teaching, really care about you as students, and will do whatever they can to help you. So I lived off campus with a bunch of, actually, when I got here, Trevor, who was a friend from American River who transferred down with me, we ended up housing together, and I always lived off campus. Living on campus is nice when you transfer in because you end up meeting a lot of people all of a sudden. I think this might have been one of the things. I was older and I didn't want to go live in a dorm. So I found a 3-bedroom apartment where me, Trevor, and one other guy, Eric, who is still a good friend of mine to this day, lived. So the last question, does your campus have facilities with, oh yeah. So we have machine shops. The material science department has a small machine shop. The big one is in mechanical engineering. And there are classes and training sessions for you to learn and make sure you know how to operate and operate safely all of the tools. So yeah, we do have all the bells and whistles. I'll also point out that right behind us, we're ridiculously fortunate. We have Lawrence Berkeley National Lab up on the hill, and many students go and do internships and research positions up at the National Lab, right? And that's a huge resource for us that other places don't have. So yeah, you can get involved in anything you want here. You can learn all about the machine shop. You know, there's lots and lots of things to do here. As I tell students, if you're at Berkeley and you're bored, you have made a conscious decision to be bored. And so I guess with that, I'll go ahead and stop. I'm guessing we're probably out of time.
We are, unfortunately, but I am so glad there's so much good discussion. I want to thank you, Dr. Sherburne, for your time, and thank you to all of our participants. I hope this got you excited and interested to learn more and maybe to apply in the coming 6 weeks or so. And thank you to Dr. Travagrini too for monitoring our chat and helping everyone out. I forgot to mention, but Dr. Sonia is also a graduate of UC Berkeley from the Mechanical Engineering Department. Awesome. Well, thank you again, everyone, for your time. I hope you have a great evening and a great rest of your week.